In security matters, a new paradigm for browser security. Let's set the stage for this discussion, courtesy of the write-up from 18F. When you visit a website, your computer connects to the website's computer. This means you send information about yourself sprinting across the internet at the speed of light. When you connect over ordinary HTTP, it's like sending a postcard in the mail where every computer in between you and the website gets to see your information. Well, that includes cookies, the browser you use, and your location. To protect consumers, government is in the middle of a push to make all federal websites Hypertext Transfer Protocol secure, or HTTPS. From the outside looking in, that's a great thing. But what about the other way around? For more, I'm joined by Scott Petry, CEO of Authentic8. Scott, let's start there. Most federal workers have a computer at their desk or a laptop at their disposal. What happens when they access websites outside of their organization? Are there risks associated with doing so?
There are, Morris. It's exactly as you described. That browser opens a connection to a destination web server. That server pulls all the information together, whether it's their own page data or advertising content from third parties, bundles it up as a big blob of code, and delivers it to the browser. The browser then opens it up and displays the page as users expect to see it.
Now, some of our viewers might remember your work with Postini, an email management vendor snapped up by Google in 2007. 2 years ago, you debuted a new product with your new company, Authentic8. It's called Silo. Now you're trying to expand Silo's footprint in government. How does it work?
Well, Silo is very similar to Postini in that we wanted to shift the threat surface area away from the point that was being attacked by the typical criminals. In the email world, it was to move away from the mail server and absorb the threats in the processing layer we built in the cloud. Silo is very similar. Instead of running the browser on the user's end device, we run the browser in a secure environment in the cloud where all the web code executes, and then we just present a secured display of that browser session down to the end user's PC.
Scott, when you launched Silo, it merited a write-up in Forbes. The author called it an interesting idea, but offered this critique, quote, "The problem I have with Silo is that there's a whole lot of utility that users gain from having a degree of persistence in their browsers. Cookies, remembered passwords, and browser extensions all help make internet users' lives more efficient. Sure, Silo might lessen some risk of danger, but it does so at a more general lessening of the browser experience." Now, is that a fair assessment? And furthermore, to government, does browser experience really matter?
Two questions there. The first, I'll say that was a fair assessment a couple of years ago when we launched, but we've been very busy expanding the functionality. Today, those things that editor wrote about, the ability to store bookmarks, the ability to store credentials, the ability to customize the browser experience, that's all built into our product today, and it's what our users are using, and there's plenty of more stuff that's coming. In terms of, do people need to use the internet in work? I think it's absolutely true, whether it's a business function, accessing cloud apps, or even managing that work-life balance, having to get to webmail or Facebook or Team Snap in order to figure out what people need to do once they're off work. The web is a reality today. The browser is the primary interface to all of those web services, whether it's work-related or personal-related. But 25 years ago when this technology was invented, security wasn't even thought of.
You got a good point there. In the wake of last year's massive data breach at the Office of Personnel Management, the Obama administration has taken significant efforts to overhaul its cybersecurity posture. Now they're trying to expand continuous diagnostics and mitigation and get agencies to implement basic controls like two-factor authentication. How should browser security factor in here?
It's funny, Morris, because the browser is the source of a lot of this evil, and yet the tools that IT, whether they're in enterprise or whether they're in government, skirt the issue. They're all around the periphery. It's locking down the network, it's putting endpoint filtering in place, it's analyzing packets. We believe the browser itself is the area where an IT administrator can get the most leverage. Putting the browser in that secure environment and then implementing policy controls, including things like two-factor authentication requirements, makes the browser the point of control. That way you can get securely to your internet resources, regardless of network, regardless of device, regardless of location, without undermining your security controls.
Yeah, I think you're right. Good to have you on board. Scott Petry, CEO of Authentic8. Thanks and good luck, Scott.
Morris, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.